He had done this dozens of times. Out to sea, back by morning. No alarm, no warning, no reason to fear the water that day. He packed light, as fishermen do, just enough for a short journey. His boat was small, his crew only one other man beside him. Nobody on that dock knew they were watching him leave for the last time. Salvador was not famous. He was not remarkable by any measure. He was a simple man, a migrant worker turned fisherman on Mexico's coast. He owed money, lived simply, and found peace only out on the open water. The Pacific had always been his place. Dangerous, yes, but familiar. That morning, the sea looked the same as it always had. Flat, dark, endless, waiting. No one could have predicted what the ocean had planned for him. Hours after leaving shore, the sky broke open without warning. Waves that started small began to grow. 10 feet, then 20, then more. Salvador tried to steer the boat back toward land, but the engine struggled. The storm hit with the kind of force that makes a grown man pray. His companion, a young man named Cordoba, froze in terror at the back. Water poured into the boat faster than they could bail it out. That night, the Pacific Ocean stopped being familiar and became a monster. They sent a distress signal. Someone on shore heard it. A rescue team was dispatched, but the storm was too powerful to navigate. By the time the water calmed enough to search, there was nothing to find. Great, no oil trail, no bodies, no boat on the radar. The Mexican Coast Guard searched for days before making the call. They were declared lost at sea, presumed dead. Their families were told to grieve. The ocean, it seemed, had taken them both. When the storm passed, Salvador found himself still alive. Barely. The boat had survived, but the engine was completely destroyed by the waves. He had no way to steer, no way to call for help, no way to go home. The current pulled him further and further from the Mexican coast. Each morning he woke up hoping to see land or a passing ship. Each morning there was nothing, just water in every direction. He was alone on the largest ocean on Earth with no map and no plan. Cordoba, his young crewmate, was alive but broken in spirit from the first week. The boy had never signed up for something like this. Nobody could have. Salvador tried to keep them both focused, rationing what little food remained. They had a small cooler of fish they'd caught before the storm hit. It would last days, not the weeks, not the months that lay ahead. Salvador began to understand, slowly and terribly, what survival really meant. It meant choosing to live every single morning when everything inside you says stop. When their food supply ran out, Salvador did what survivors do. He reached into the ocean itself and began pulling out whatever he could find. Raw fish, sea turtles, small birds that landed on the boat, exhausted from flying. He ate things no human being would voluntarily choose to consume. He drank rainwater collected in old containers and the blood of sea turtles. Every meal was a battle, caught with bare hands, eaten without fire. The Pacific was slowly becoming both his prison and his grocery store. Survival experts would later say what Salvador did was almost impossible, catching enough food by hand in open ocean to sustain a human body for months. He had no fishing rod, no proper tools, only instinct sharpened by desperation. He learned the patterns of the birds, the fish, the turtles that surrounded the boat. He learned when to reach and when to wait in perfect stillness. His hands became weapons. His patience became a survival skill. The ocean had tried to kill him with a storm. Now it was keeping him alive. By the third month, Cordoba had stopped eating almost entirely. The young man had given up in the way that the mind gives up before the body does. He refused fish, refused water, refused Salvador's desperate attempts to help. He spoke less each day, stared at the horizon with hollow, distant eyes. Salvador begged him, argued with him, prayed over him through the nights. But some people, when they decide the fight is over, cannot be pulled back. On a quiet night with no wind, Cordoba closed his eyes and did not open them again. Salvador was now completely alone on the open Pacific Ocean. He kept Cordoba's body for several days, unable to accept what had happened. He talked to him. He apologized to him. He wept in a way men rarely allow themselves. Then, with the weight of grief heavier than anything the sea had thrown at him, he lowered his companion gently into the water and watched the ocean take him. It was the loneliest moment in one of the loneliest ordeals ever survived. After that day, Salvador spoke to God, to the fish, to the sky, anything that might answer. Weeks of isolation began to do things to Salvador's mind. The silence of the open ocean is not peaceful. It is suffocating. He began to hear voices, to see shapes moving in the water below. He would wake in the night convinced someone else was on the boat with him. Grief, dehydration, and solitude had begun to blur the line between real and imagined. He later recalled conversations he had with his mother, who was thousands of miles away. The human mind, it turns out, will create company when none exists. Survivors of extreme isolation describe a consistent phenomenon. The brain begins to manufacture experience when deprived of real stimulation. For Salvador, these hallucinations became both comfort and torment. Some nights the visions were warm. Family, food, the smell of his home village. Other nights they were dark. Shapes beneath the hull. Sounds with no source. He learned to separate what was real from what his suffering mind invented. It was, he later said, like living inside two worlds at the same time. Over the course of his drift, Salvador spotted several ships in the distance. Each time, something inside him surged. Hope, adrenaline, the will to be seen. He waved. He screamed. He burned whatever he could find to create smoke signals. But the ships were always too far, moving too fast, looking the wrong direction. One vessel came close enough that he could see its lights clearly through the night. He waved for hours until his arms gave out, and the ship disappeared over the horizon. He described those moments as the most painful of his entire ordeal. Being unseen when you are desperate to be found is a specific kind of agony. It is worse, in some ways, than never seeing the ships at all. Each missed rescue renewed the question every survivor eventually faces. Is anyone actually looking for me? Or have I already been forgotten? The Mexican Coast Guard had long since ended its official search. His family had held a small memorial. His name was in the records as lost. But Salvador refused to accept that the world had finished with him. Months into the drift, survival stopped being an emergency and became a routine. Salvador woke each morning and began his work. Catch food, collect water, maintain the boat. He rationed every resource with the precision of someone who understood waste meant death. He created systems, containers for different purposes, schedules for rest and activity. The structure kept him sane when his emotions threatened to collapse everything. Psychologists who later studied his case called this instinctive cognitive anchoring. His mind had built a daily purpose to prevent itself from surrendering. He prayed every single day, not always for rescue, sometimes just for strength. He thought about his daughter, a child he had left behind in El Salvador years before. He had not been a present father. The ocean gave him time to reckon with that. He made promises to God, to himself, to the daughter who didn't know he was fighting to return. Survival at sea is not only physical, it is a daily negotiation with your own soul. Every person who has endured extreme isolation reports the same truth. You survive for something. Salvador survived for the chance to be a better man. The open Pacific, as empty as it looked, was full of life below the surface. Sea turtles became Salvador's most reliable food source across the months. He learned to catch them with his bare hands when they surfaced near the boat. Their blood provided hydration. Their meat provided protein. Their shells became tools. He did not enjoy this. He was not a man who hunted carelessly. But survival does not ask whether you are comfortable with what it requires. The ocean's creatures, in a terrible irony, became the reason he stayed alive. Seabirds also landed on the boat regularly, exhausted from long migrations. Salvador caught them with patient, still hands and consumed them entirely. He ate things that would horrify most people sitting safely in their homes. Survival nutrition is nothing like normal food. It is fuel and nothing more. He later described the texture of raw turtle as something he can never forget, not because it was pleasant, but because each bite meant another day of life. The line between hunter and hunted blurs completely when you are fighting to exist. What Salvador didn't know was that the ocean was moving him constantly. Pacific currents, invisible rivers within the sea, were carrying the boat westward. He had no GPS, no compass, no way to know where he was or where he was going. He had drifted past islands he never saw, through shipping lanes at the wrong time. Over 14 months, he would cross more than 6,000 miles of open ocean. That distance, from Mexico almost to Australia, is nearly incomprehensible by boat. It remains one of the longest unintended ocean drifts ever survived by a human being. Oceanographers who later studied his trajectory were stunned by the route. The currents had carried him in a wide arc across the central and western Pacific. He had drifted through some of the most remote waters on the planet, areas so far from shipping routes that weeks could pass with nothing on the horizon. The mathematical probability of surviving that particular drift was extraordinarily low. Too far south, and he would have missed the islands entirely. The ocean, it seems, had carried him, by pure chance, exactly where he needed to go. On the 438th day, something changed on the horizon. A shape appeared that didn't move the way clouds move. It stayed fixed and dark. Salvador stared at it for hours, terrified to believe what he thought he was seeing. He had hallucinated land before. He had learned not to trust his own eyes completely. But this shape grew slowly larger as the current pushed the boat forward. Trees, a shoreline, the unmistakable geography of solid ground. After more than 14 months at sea, José Salvador Alvarenga was looking at land. The island was Ebon Atoll, the southernmost point of the Marshall Islands, a remote, sparsely populated strip of land in the middle of the western Pacific. Salvador was so weakened he could barely paddle the boat toward shore. His legs had not carried his full weight in over a year, the muscles nearly gone. He approached a house on the beach and knocked on the door like a man returning from a dream. The couple inside found a figure barely recognizable as someone who had once been ordinary, sunburned, skeletal, bearded and alive, impossibly, incomprehensibly alive. The couple who answered the door were local residents of Ebon Atoll. They did not immediately understand what they were seeing standing before them. A man, or the remains of one, speaking Spanish in the middle of the Marshall Islands. He was skeletal, his skin deeply damaged, his eyes a mixture of relief and disbelief. They brought him inside, gave him food and water, and contacted the local authorities. Within hours, word had reached the outside world that something extraordinary had happened. A man lost at sea for over a year had walked out of the Pacific Ocean and knocked on a door. News of his survival reached Mexico before it reached his own family. His mother, who had buried him in her heart 14 months earlier, received the call. She later described the moment as something she still cannot find words to explain. Journalists flew to the Marshall Islands within days of the story breaking internationally. What they found was a man still adjusting to the basic reality of being on solid ground. He couldn't walk properly. He couldn't eat normal food without becoming ill. His body had become so adapted to sea survival that land itself felt foreign. Salvador was treated at a local medical facility before being transported to better care. Doctors documented what his body had endured across 14 months of ocean survival. Severe muscle atrophy, vitamin deficiencies, sun-damaged skin across nearly every surface. His digestive system required gradual reintroduction to normal food over several weeks. Despite everything, his core organs had survived. His mind was largely intact. The medical community was as astonished as everyone else by what his body had withstood. Human beings, it turns out, are far more durable than we give ourselves credit for. His story spread across news networks in the United States, Europe, and Latin America. Survival experts, oceanographers, and psychologists all lined up to analyze what had happened. How had one man, with no special training, no equipment, survived where others would not? The answer, most concluded, was a combination of practical skill and psychological resistance. He knew the ocean. He respected it rather than fought it. He adapted constantly, and he never, in over 400 days, fully surrendered the belief that he would survive. That refusal to give in, experts agreed, was the single most critical factor in his survival. While Salvador was celebrated, another family carried only grief. Ezequiel Cordoba, the young man who had gone out on that boat with him, never came home. His family in Mexico had already mourned. Now they faced the story all over again. Every interview Salvador gave, every headline, brought Cordoba's name back into the light. But there was no rescue for that family. No miraculous return, only confirmation of loss. Survival stories always have two sides, the one who made it and the one who did not. Cordoba was 23 years old when the Pacific Ocean took him. Salvador himself has carried the weight of Cordoba's death ever since. He has spoken publicly about the guilt of surviving when the younger man could not. He replays those final weeks, asking whether there was more he could have done. Survivor's guilt is not a dramatic concept. It is a quiet, persistent shadow. It follows you into ordinary moments, meals, sleep, laughter, and asks why you deserve them. Salvador returned to his daughter, rebuilt relationships, and tried to find peace. But the boy he watched slip into the Pacific Ocean is never far from his memory. The Pacific Ocean did not change because of what José Salvador Alvarenga survived. It moves the same way it always has, indifferent, enormous, and older than memory. 438 days is nothing to an ocean that has existed for millions of years. But to one man, adrift on its surface with no engine and no map, it was everything. It was the length of a complete transformation, from a simple fisherman to something harder, something that had looked directly at death every single morning and chosen otherwise. His survival is not a miracle story. It is a human story, and that makes it far more powerful. When asked what kept him alive through the darkest months, Salvador gives a simple answer. He says he is not sure he can fully explain it even to himself. There was no single moment of heroism, no dramatic turning point, no secret strength. Just one decision, repeated every morning for over 400 days, to keep going, to catch the next fish, to collect the next rain, to wait for the next ship. The ocean is still out there, vast, dark, and full of stories that never made it back to shore. Salvador Alvarenga is one of the few who did.